Hey,
Sister,
yo, what's going on? You good?
I'm I'm good, you know. How's yourself?
Cool, man. I feel really, really well. Wow, people are in this thing early.
I told you.
Early, you know.
Yes.
Is the
You know,
volume all right? Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly fine.
Okay. I just hope that everybody's logging in can hear me well. I'm quite loud anyway, so it shouldn't be a problem, but let me know if you want me to be louder.
Okay. We're good.
Cool, cool, cool. Have you had your dinner, Darren?
Yes. I had my I had my listen, I'm a man that run for my food, you know. I had to have that nice and early, you know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Good. Preparation is key.
No mas,
I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
honestly.
I'm looking forward to this discussion, you know.
Oh wow. It's well, you know the work that it's taken to get to this point.
For real. It's not a joke, you know. And the work hasn't even started. We're
Yes,
just beginning the thing. So you
absolutely.
know,
Absolutely.
it's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a good one. Hi everybody who's joining in. Wow. You lot are really showing out, innit?
I think it's
ELM to the world.
I
Yes,
think
Jenna.
it's become part of people's Wednesday routine, you know.
This is the Wednesday routine. If
This
you're
is the
not doing this,
Wednesday
what else
thing.
are you doing? Yeah,
Exactly.
every
TV.
Wednesday at 8 o'clock. What else are you supposed to be doing? You're supposed to be locked into the Epiphany people.
Hmm.
This is
And
it.
this is how it is.
This is how it is for real. For real. First Instagram live, you know, with you.
Is it really?
This is my pleasure. This is my pleasure. I would only bless up Instagram live with you, for you, first time. Yeah, man.
Wow, am I honored? Listen, people, to set a little context behind this, right? I have been after Liz for weeks. Yeah? Because everybody's been like, yo, you need to speak to Liz. Liz is the
Who's this
one.
everybody? Who's this everybody, Darren?
Everybody, seriously,
Big up you lot. That's
everybody,
nice.
yeah. You, do you know what I
That's
mean?
nice.
So honestly, this is where we're at. So I'm really glad to have you here. Um, we are 48 in the room. I'm not gonna crack it on because me and you're gonna go on for a bit. I'm gonna make this disclaimer first and foremost. If the video went well, when the video cuts out after an hour, there's a chance that we probably won't even realize. We won't give you any notice, but the chances are that we will be back straight afterwards. So do feel
Yeah,
free to join us, please. Yeah.
for real.
Okay. All right then. So in terms of today, how I wanted to get it started first. All right. So one of the original founders of the Pan-African movement, yeah, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, right? It's actually the 80th anniversary of his death today. All right. So you know what? In true fashion, as we started, I want to have a minute silence, yeah, just to
Absolutely.
acknowledge his impact and his legacy from the Black Star Liner to this day in terms of what he's
Totally.
done for us. So we're gonna hold a minute, a medi, all right? So starting from now. Okay, so if you've just joined us, we've just had a minute silence because today is the 80th anniversary since the passing of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. All right, we know what impact he had from people from the African diaspora in terms of the Pan-African movement. So in terms of that, I can't, I'm a Garveyite, what can I say?
Yeah.
So people, right, today I'm joined by Liz, the nursery manager.
The black nursery manager. The black nursery manager.
The black nursery manager, right?
Yeah.
And today we're going to be looking at contextualizing the black childhood experience in Britain. So I think it's only right for us to kind of, you know, the nursery, which is your family nursery, I do have a special kind of affinity to, because it was the nursery that my older sons went to when they were little. Do you know what I mean? So I know in terms of community and legacy, I know how important it was, and they were looked after very well in your mum's care. So give thanks. All right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, Liz, who are you?
Who am I? Well, you know what's really interesting actually is that a lot of the people who have joined the chat this evening, who are here, a large majority of them probably have only seen me through the Black Nursery Manager Instagram. And then there will be a small section of those people who may have had a conversation with me. There's always going to be some people who have had interaction with me as a nursery manager and as the Black Nursery Manager. So the two have married up. So some of you will have had your children here, you would have had your cousins here, you might have been here. Do you know what I mean? Because I've been here. And that's first. It's really important to set that into context before we talk about contextualizing the experience of Black children in today's Britain. So my name's Liz Pemberton. I have worked in the early years education field for the past 16 years. And within that time, I've taken some time out to teach secondary. So I'm a qualified secondary school teacher. And also to do a bit of lecturing within colleges and universities as well, mainly in the area of early childhood studies. When I was teaching secondary, I taught health and social care, child development and drama. And that was because my first degree was in drama and English. So drama is a subject that's close to my heart. I probably think throughout this chat, you'll get to see that I'm quite dramatic. Those of you who are already on my page know that I'm very expressive. I don't mince my words. But the majority of my professional experience has been within the early years sector. And when I say early years, I mean children under 5. And it's really important that I let you know that I'm not talking about children over 5, and I'm not talking about experience with children over 5. I'm talking about the under 5s. So the family business, as you said, it has been in the family for the past 30 odd years. So my mom, Yvonne Kerr, she is the business owner. We have 3 children's day nurseries. Edgbaston Park is where I'm based and have always been here since 2004. But my mom bought the business as a nursery in 1994. We have got 2 nurseries in Bearwood, and the first nursery was bought in like 1987. So we've been in this, right? The third nursery is 4 years old now. So yeah, we're 3 nurseries deep. Early years is in our blood, sweat, tears, everything. We're committed to this. What's been quite unique, I guess, about Edgbaston Park, where I am, is that the demographic of the children, like you spoke about your 2 big boys, right? The demographic has always been Black African Caribbean children. We have always had a history and an affinity with the community, and that community has come from far and wide. We're located in Edgbaston, you know, but we are also very much bordering Ladywood, right? And we are not too far from the Hagley Road. So we're on Rotten Park Road. Those of you who are from Birmingham will know the nursery well. Yeah, we're on the corner of Rotten Park Road and Selwyn Road. So you know in terms of location where we are. In one direction, you've got Dudley Road, City Road. In the other direction, I made a joke about it, and I always do, you know, we've got the leafy suburbs of Edgbaston, you know, and it's a different demographic. And I'm saying it from now, the people who live in the leafy suburbs of Edgbaston, they do not come to Edgbaston Park Day Nursery. And that's not because I've told them that they can't. It's because that over the years, I know they have recognized that the number of children that attend my nursery and the management of the nursery and the staff team, the practitioners that I've always had, historically, we're black and we're brown, but we're predominantly black. And we'll get into that, you know, terminology a little bit later. So my passion has always been in early years, and particularly the black child, and the development of black children locally, nationally, and soon to be internationally. But I think it's really been something that's close to my heart, the development of black kids. So
can I ask one thing?
Sorry.
I was going to say, what brought you back? Yeah. What brought you back home?
What brought me back home?
Yes, as I call it now.
Home, back home. I've never been away.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's not a thing like bringing me back. I can't wake up and take off my skin. I can't, you know, walk out of the house and walk out of the nursery and then today I'm not going to be black. I'm not going to ever be away from the early years education or the early years sector. And that's why, as I said, I don't shy away from the fact that I am and have branded myself the Black Nursery Manager for a reason. I've always been the Black Nursery Manager, but it's important to have that imprint and have that on this platform so that people know what they're getting before they come and see my face. I have to laud it. It's important to me. So yeah, I've never been away from home, but what I have done, I guess, in the diversification of my knowledge base, took some time out to go and teach secondary because it was important. I wanted to see who was coming into the sector. And in order for me to see who was coming into the sector, I wanted to know who was teaching them. Because historically, you know, the early years sector is dominated by women, okay? It is a female-dominated industry. And I feel quite strongly about that as well in terms of gender equality and who comes into working in nursery settings, because it needs to be changed, okay? I need to have as many men as I do women, yeah? But when I was looking at teaching early years or teaching childcare, health and social care, I was really interested in who was coming into the sector, and I wanted to know what were they being delivered, and I was coming straight out of industry. So I literally kind of took a 2.5 year gap, not even a break, because I was still at the nursery. But I went and taught at a local school, any Hillcrest massive who are in here. Yeah, I was teaching at Hillcrest School in Bartley Green, and it was the most rewarding and exhilarating experience, the best 2.5 year break ever, because it meant that I was actually directly impacting on young women, you know, girls who were in sixth form, year 10, year 11. At the time, there was an option for them to choose childcare, and I was responsible for delivering the curriculum that was set, but delivering it with my interpretation of it, because I knew what it was like to be working in a nursery setting.
Yes. Wow. So yes, very, very powerful in terms of that. And what I wanted to also pick up on was, you know, if we started looking at the subject in matter in terms of what we're talking about, really contextualizing the black child experience. Now, you've done that ever so eloquently in terms of painting the picture of the demographics, the building, the becoming the black nursery manager. I think you've illustrated that, because I think that's become a journey yourself, really, hasn't it?
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean?
And I've had to really take charge of that, and as I said, not shy away from the fact that I am black and that I am a nursery manager, and I take this thing seriously. I always say to anybody that comes to look around the nursery, right, to put their children in, this is not a factory. I don't want anybody working here who's got nothing better to do, or they want to come here because they want to get paid. You need to come here and you want to be a part of this system, this thing that we're doing, because you are passionate as I am, about the well-being of black children. because that is who I'm serving, right? And I understand the importance of making sure that that is delivered from a place of 1000% commitment, right? The early years historically has always been underfunded. It doesn't pay well, and that's a real. So if you've gone on this journey to, you know, want to become a practitioner or want to work in education, understand that the foundation actually starts from under 5. It doesn't start at primary, it doesn't start at reception, and it certainly doesn't start at secondary. There are things that we can do to intervene at those stages, but, you know, early years, you need to come in with your whole chest and know what it is. So as I said, when I've come into this as the Black nursery manager, as I said, I've always been Black. I've always worked in early years education. I've always done this. When it came to kind of taking this into a social media space, that was new for me. People who know me have known what I've done, right? But people who don't have got to understand that the way in which, I guess, lockdown has impacted on what is happening on a day-to-day basis at the nursery, it meant I had to take charge of a situation which needed action to be taken. I'm not waiting to listen to Boris about when the nursery can open, when the nursery can't be open. You see, from the day that lockdown was announced, I locked off the nursery because I already knew there were going to be risks and different implications for me and my children and families and my staff team. So that, I guess, we're in like the 12th week now. It's giving me real time to reflect and think about, well, what is happening? Where's the connection going to be rebuilt? How am I going to make sure that I'm still connected with my children and my families? Because I'll keep it very real with you. I don't play by the rules, right? And it's made me somebody who, for all intents and purposes, you know, the authorities, they're probably not a big fan of me. They're certainly not a big fan of my mom, because my mom's been out here making noise from the 80s. So I'm standing on her shoulders, do you know what I mean? But I'm also looking at the fact that I am a rule breaker, and I engage with my children and with my families all the time, you know, and sometimes to my own detriment, because I make myself too available. But it's important that I'm available, particularly now during lockdown. You're putting your finger up, you're like, I need to say something.
Yeah. Miss. Listen, well, when you're thinking about, right, considering, I would even see you calling it rule breaker, but in a colonized education system, right? Yeah. Which is oppressive to us. You're serving what's best, right, for the child and for the families, and that's as simple as that. Nothing else.
Yeah, for real. And you know, I understand that whilst we're doing this, remember, we're playing chess, not checkers. So when I say rule breaker, I'm not saying I'm breaking my rules, you know, but I'm breaking the rules of the, you know, the regulatory body. You know, I'm breaking the rules of Ofsted, I'm breaking the rules of the local authority, but I don't give a damn. And that's why I'm here to say on Instagram Live, I don't business. I'm not here for your validation. I'm not here for you to tell me whether I am good, whether I'm outstanding. Right now, we're inadequate because I challenge things and I speak up. And I alluded to some of those things on the posts that I've been putting up over this past 12 weeks, but it's because I don't take back chat, and certain things have to be done in order for the development of our Black children in Britain today to start doing what we've got to do. And sometimes it means that we have to just do what we have to do for the benefit of ourselves and our children and our families. And the way in which our family networks operate isn't written in a book. It's constantly evolving. That's important to know and to take charge of, and know that it's rapid. When my mom started the business in the 80s, there was no such thing as social media. There certainly wasn't Instagram Live, was there? Do you know what I mean? But I know in the time that I've been managing, 2004, this wasn't a thing. It didn't exist. But I've known that there's always been a need to have a reach out for the community. So when we talk about grassroots, it isn't a joke, right? I am at the nursery. I am here, and I'm here because it's important that my face is seen and visibility is at 100%. And it's important that any practitioners that I have in the team, you know, they also reflect what I want the children to see, and that's greatness and it's excellence as I define it, as we define it, as the families that access the nursery define it. That is how I look at excellence, and that is how I like to make sure that, you know, my thing is operated on. But I also know that we're human and we have to allow for human error, you know, and we're not robots. People get tired. It's a relentless job, a career, industry, and it's sometimes quite a thankless kind of role as well. As any people who are in this live now know about working within the community, it has its pros, its amazing pros, but I don't want to disillusion anybody to think that there's no cons, because they are. So, you know, it's really important to look at everything and to balance everything out. And as I said, contextualize things. So that's what I'm hoping that the live is going to do, set things into context, particularly, as I said, around Black children. And I should add as well, I'm big on really defining this. I'm not using political Blackness here. So Blackness is encompassing this specific definition. So Blackness as rooted in ancestry, or, you know, the African and Caribbean, you know, roots of Blackness, not political Blackness. Okay, so I'm not talking about the political Blackness movement, which was encompassing of South Asian communities. You know, there are lots of nuance, ways in which we define our experiences, and we must take charge of that and do that unapologetically. We need to stop being in a space where we think that we're going to offend, or, you know, oh, people are going to be upset. Who cares? We're here to deal with a specific set of people and groups and experiences. And within our Blackness, we're very nuanced as well. So, you know, if you feel excluded by that, that isn't actually our problem. And you see the pushback already with what's happening with BLM and, you know, the uprisings, not the protests, the uprisings, because how much rubbish, you know, people are going to take before people start to push back and respond and start breaking rules. You know, it is what it is. So I wanted to just let that be clear, that what I'm speaking about is not political Blackness. I'm talking about Blackness rooted in, you know, the African and the Caribbean experience, and specifically in Britain, in the UK, and specifically now in 2020, because we've got to stay current and we've got to keep up with what's happening now.
Now. So in terms of, I suppose it's a different sort of situation, because, boy, for myself, majority of my education experience has been in white institutions. Yeah. So for you to step into a nursery or a university or a school where you're seeing and you're being understood and you're being received and you're being welcomed and you're being, tell me about some of the feedback that you've had from parents, like, you know, from that experience.
The experience and the feedback, being the Black nursery manager, having the setting, being here. The response has been, where have you been? The response has been, I'm so glad I found you. The response has been like, yo, it feels like home. Like, this is where I want my child to be. That's been the response. It's been an overwhelming feeling of love. And certain things have catapulted that, of course. We know in our community, word of mouth is the thing that means the most. Google reviews do so much. But if you know that your cousin's been here, if you know your little sister's been here, if you know somebody's, you know, family member has been in a space and they've been cared for, and you know the same practitioners are here, or you know Liz is still here, that's enough for me. And that's enough for the families. And so a lot of the business that we've had has always been repeat business, right? And it's gone through, look at this here, Darren, it's full circle. Do you know what I mean? We knew each other before we knew each other. And that happens all the time. All the time. But that's why I always say as well, know how you're moving and know how you're living, because our community operates on a very long history of oral tradition. We are storytellers by nature. We know what it is to feel something and to express that. I just saw Santana put in home cooking. Home cooking, you know, parents come to the nursery. I've always had this thing, right? I don't know what it's like at other nurseries because I don't dabble. But I do know that food is important for me. I like to nyam through the day, right? And I like to know that the food tastes good. And it might sound trivial, but I've always had, you know, a Black nursery cook in the nursery. I've always had a Black nursery cook. And the food has always been culturally compatible. And by that, I mean that we know what we're eating. We know how the food's been freshly prepared. And we know that it's going to taste good. And what the kids are eating, I'm eating. And the practitioners are eating. You know, so it's not anything that's just brought in or delivered. So big up the nursery cook, Yvonne. Big up. She won't be on Instagram, but somebody will know her. Yeah, but people know. People come into the setting and they smell the food. So, yeah, man, it's a serious thing. You know, cornmeal porridge is standard. Some of the parents are in this group chat now, rice and peas, the kids are asking for dumpling. They're like, yo, is dumpling on the menu today? Like, what's happening? Are we eating that today? And we're getting the 3-year-olds, the 2-year-olds to be really consciously aware of what they're putting in their bodies. So having a little growing bed outside in the nursery as well, planting things, seeing things grow, because we're incorporating a lot of, I guess, African-centered approaches to early childhood and to our experience as Black people. And looking at that historical perspective, we have to bring it in, as I said, to 2020 and look about what's happening now. So, yeah, I think these are the things parents have commonly said. Like, in our most recent thing before lockdown, it has just been an actual lifesaver and a lifeline for a lot of the children and families, because we don't, I guess, hide from the fact that our communities are impacted differently, okay, when it comes to socioeconomic factors, when it comes to the employment market, when it comes to health, we are impacted differently. And the Black community feels the brunt of that time and time again. And the Black community in Birmingham, particularly where we're located, the impact is different. Where my children and families come from, it isn't an option that a lot of them have to stay at home with dad whilst mum, goes to the shops, does what she's got to do, lives a yummy mummy lifestyle. Harborne's down the road. That's where the yummy mummies are at, But here, where we are located, mum's got to go to work. You get me? Dad might be on a night shift. The thing's got to pattern up and everything's got to match. But we've got to make sure that as the childcare provider, we're coming in. So, yeah, we close at 6, but, it's not common for us to be leaving at 6, because if there's traffic on Dudley Road, you're not going to get here for 6 o'clock. You get me? You're going to get here at 15:15. But it's about understanding that as well. This is what I mean when I talk about nuance. Not everything is about, wow, this is the late fee. We're going to allow you once or twice, But all I ask for in certain situations like that is just common courtesy. Phone me, let me know. Most of the parents have got my phone number. WhatsApp me, whatever it is. And more time, I'm going to be sitting here with your child and waiting. And that's what I mean about this thing. It's grassroots. It's about understanding the community and the needs of the community.
Differently, exactly.
I just thought, did you have something else to interject? I know that I'm, running away. I got a lot of things.
Listen, you just give it to them, man. Listen, anybody who knows you is not expecting anything less. Let's be real about that. Do you know what I mean?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. So I do, as I said, I do think about how our Blackness is used against us. I think about how our Blackness is used to empower. I think about this current climate really pushing the conversation forward. But how are we pushing the conversation forward for the under 5s? So some of the things that I've kind of thought about really, I guess in preparation for this conversation, and some of the conversations me and you have had, Darren, has just really been about how we are thinking about our Blackness and what does our Blackness look like and how is it demonstrated to the children. A lot of us are in situations where we are around under 5s all the time, whether that be in our houses, whether that be in the barbers, whether that be, at the nail shop. Like, childhood is on the move, right? We've got children who have got Instagram accounts. Yeah, we have got children who are accessing things differently now to how they were accessing things in the 90s. Under 5s have got a lot more exposure to conversations, to the feelings and the moods. And we know right now, the mood is heavy for us. The mood is heavy for us as a community. And I think about the emotional impact that has, not just on the parents, on the grandparents, but on the children. What is the mood doing for the children? Because it feels heavy and it's weighty. And we know children under 5, are experiencing a range of emotions at different times in their day, depending on what they've eaten, depending on how much they've slept. So what's the mood? How are we transferring energies? Any of the people that are on this Instagram live who know me know that I'm big on energy, and the energy has to be right. So when we're thinking about how we transfer that energy onto our children, we don't directly always consciously think about it, and we have to be conscious. We have to be intentional. I spoke, to a good friend of mine, Alyssa Rochelle, about moving with purpose and moving with intention. And that has to be very consciously at the forefront of our minds when we're engaging with Black children in this current climate and at this time. And that's why I talk about contextualizing the Black, I guess, childhood experience. What are we doing, and how conscious are we as the adults who are interacting with these children? And how conscious are we around shaping a narrative which promotes a feeling of positivity and self-esteem? How intentional are we in the language that we use when we're talking to Black children about how they feel, or, you know, not just how was your day, but how do you feel? You know, what did you do and how did that make you feel? And why did you feel like that? You know, any parents in this live, any people who have got children around them know that talking about emotions and providing a platform, I guess, or a space for emotional literacy is very important. And I would say, particularly for Black boys, you know, Black boys under 5, they need space and time to express themselves. And we need to have an understanding of how expression is interpreted as the adults that interact.
Because what I will say is,
Darren, I'll let you speak.
Yeah,
I'll let you speak.
Yes, miss. Yes, miss. Listen, one of the things that frustrates me, unfortunately, is when we're telling our young Black boys, man up. Man up. Yeah. Don't cry. Don't be a girl. What these things, man, I don't think we realize the damage that we're doing. You know what I mean? We don't realize the damage that we're doing. For me, do you know what I mean? I think for sometimes, if you don't ball, everything burn down. If you don't ball, everything mash up. Yeah? Yeah. It's dangerous, and that's why we lead to the mental health and everything else. So we need to get our kids to be able to feel comfortable that they can say, Mummy, I'm not happy, I'm sad, or whatever else. That we need that.
And if that conversation can be facilitated with the child's father, even better. You know, there's something very powerful about having Black men speak to Black children about how they feel, and creating a space for that conversation to take place organically as well. You know, having that space to say, yo, son, how do you feel? Listen, you know, when I was little, this is how I felt about this. And as you said, encouraging crying, it's good to cry, and not just to cry out of frustration, but to cry because you're unhappy. Look at what is happening in the world. If we don't have a real hold on our emotional state, this could break us. And right now we have to make sure that we're creating space for little Black children to express their emotional states, and to do it with confidence, to do it without ridicule, or to do it without the feeling that, oh, I'm going to be seen as not really a boy if I cry. Whatever that means, you know, these labels that we put on children under 5, it's really, really dangerous. And again, we have to be intentional. We have to be purposeful about the space that we create for children to express their emotions. As I said, contextualizing the Black childhood experience. It's about context. It's about looking at what's happening in the here and now. And as I said, these are things that we have to be aware of. So I guess what is happening with us, because, you know, I spoke to you, Darren, about relationships and the breakdown of relationships and how that impacts on parenting, or how that impacts on how we feel about our children. Because this is a conversation that needs to be had. How do you feel about your children? And how do you feel about your children's father, mother? Because that relationship dynamic there has a direct impact on how you engage with that child. And a lot of things come up. A lot of things have come up in the 16 years that I've been here, really exploring how people feel about their children when relationships break down. So a lot of us have been through heartbreak. All of us, if we are Black women in this space right now, we have been through heartbreak. And some of us have been through heartbreak and we haven't had a child during that heartbreak. Some of us have fallen pregnant and experienced heartbreak the next week. Some of us experienced heartbreak and still had to push that baby out. What does that do to us? Emotionally, mentally, what does that do to us? Because we still haven't even got into week 1, week 2 of having the baby, right, in the house. We're being discharged from hospital in a state of trauma. We've spoken about, you know, me and you, the impact of what is happening in terms of trauma in the hospital for Black women who are having babies. contextualize the thing. So we've been in a traumatic situation in the hospital. We're going to be having this baby. The relationship might have broken down, or things are not too good because the communication's broken down. But boy, sir, this baby's on its way, you know. And there's an expectation that we still have to be feeding into this strong black woman narrative, this super mom narrative, you know. And what does that do to us? What does that do to the child? Because we know what happens in kind of, you know, prenatal stresses.
Yes.
Pregnancy is important, and motherhood and fatherhood is important, but the relationship that is cultivated throughout that time, right, that 9 months and beyond is very, very key. And we have to make sure, again, we're having those conversations, because there are things that disproportionately impact us within the black family unit that don't impact any other people. It doesn't. And that's what I say about the importance of nuance. What are the conversations? Because you best believe everything you can imagine that might have happened at this nursery has happened. Dads have come to take their kids because they're not talking to the mums. Mums have phoned me and been like, yo, Liz, if he comes to get the youth today, don't make him take the child. This is what's going on. And that's what I mean. You have to be equipped for those situations, you know. You have to be able to say to dad, yo, listen, mum's phoned. This is the situation. I can't stop you from taking your child. He is or she is your child. I'm not getting in the way of that. But what I'm saying is that you have to have a level of respect and communicate with the mother or father of your child, irrespective of what's going on, because your child has to be at the center all the time. So those conversations commonly happen. Those kinds of situations occur. And sometimes it's a call in the middle of the day, because any women in this Instagram live, any men in this Instagram live who are black know what it's like when the thing pops down, lunchtime, you get a feisty text message, you get a feisty WhatsApp, and you're like, hold on, you all right? And you're meant to go and pick up your child today. No. It's not going to run. That impacts on the emotional state of the child, because sometimes grandma might come and the child's expecting mom, or the child's expecting dad. That can tip over the whole day for that 3-year-old. You know, where's my mom? Where's my dad? Why are they not here? They might have been looking forward to that all day, and somebody else comes because you've had a little bit of a ruckus with the father or the mother of your child. That can't run. You need to put that aside. And ego is at the center of a lot of these things that are happening. And so that's why I say it's a nuanced conversation that we have to have. And I say we have to have an understanding of the communities that we are working within. And it's not to say this doesn't ever happen, you know, in other nurseries where there are black practitioners. But what matters is that you have black management at the top of that, filtering the thing, yeah? And it has to come from the ground up, not just top down. If I have a conversation with my deputy, right? Big up Karina if she's in here. If I have a conversation with my deputy, I want to know that this is what we're going to do. This is the plan. I want to know that all of my team are on board. I'm not making any decisions on behalf of anybody, right? Because we're all here as individuals. We are part of the brand. We're part of the nursery setting. This has to come from an organic place, and it has to come from a place of understanding and sensitivity around the needs of our community and our children. And so I say, before I started using that word community, that's why I said at the start of this, you know, Instagram live, know what it is that you're talking about, because I'm talking about black children. Okay, I'm talking about black families, and I'm talking about the fact that, you know, whatever terminology you might want to use, if one of your parents is not black, think about when you go out in the street, they're seeing you as white. If one of your parents is black, you know, how are you being defined when you come out of here? Yeah, and this is the thing. Know that when you are a nursery that is overly represented by black children and black families, the police are watching. The police are here. They're doing extra patrols. Know that when you're in an area like Edgbaston, on Rotten Park Road, you know, the neighbours are going to complain about how the parking's set up, because we're in a residential area. You know,
or the loud music outside.
Yeah, there's loud music outside.
Them kind of things.
Loud music outside. We're rule breakers. This is what I want to do. I play my music loud when I come to the nursery. I want my parents to play their music loud. Good. Yes, get used to it. This is how we are. This is how we live. And we need to think about donning the respectability politics when it comes to those things, because that's all it is. How are people going to feel if I play my music loud? Bun out that. Play whatever you need to play. You might have had a really stressful day at work. I know I need to turn up the tunes if I have had a stressful day at work. I don't business about what's happening outside of my car. I'm thinking about the fact I've got to get from A to B. I've had a stressful day. So I think as a community, as Black people, we do concern ourselves a lot with respectability politics. How is it going to look? How are people going to feel? What are people going to say? I don't business. And there's no better time than now to say, I'm here in my unapologetic state. This is a new era. White people are just starting to wake up now to the fact that we have experienced so much trauma as Black people, and our lives matter, that now they want to start engaging and doing the work. Now white women want to speak to me about parenting. Now white fathers want to talk to me about all of the anti-racist work that they've been doing. But as I said before, you know, have you put your child in a nursery that is predominantly Black? Show me with your actions, because that's what anti-racism looks like to me. White families, white parents, even in this current climate, you know, are now just starting to wake up to the fact that their children are being influenced by the thought processes that they harbor and that they have, and that spills out in casual conversation. Because no child comes into a nursery setting and uses inappropriate racial slurs without hearing that from somewhere. No child comes into a setting and has a certain like towards a certain, you know, demographic of children and a certain dislike to another demographic of children. That hasn't come from nowhere. That's come from the family. It's come from home. And it's the same way, like I say, you know, we have always commonly had instances of swearing. You know, my Black kids in preschool particularly, they come in and they swear. And yeah, okay, it could be seen as quite problematic. You know, it could be like a gasp moment. It's often very, very funny, but there's a way to respond to it. And it's about understanding that this is something that is set in a context of perhaps hearing that from home, and not embarrassing parents as well, if that might be the case. The same with behavior. I'm not here to fight against you if the behavior of the child has been a little bit left today. It's life. We're human. What is the expectation? But I do often prepare my parents for when their children go into the school setting. That's what teachers are going to try and do. They are going to try and label your child, and you have to be very vigilant about that, and you have to be very aware that this is not a label that you're taking on, and it's a label that you're rejecting. Your child isn't naughty. Your child isn't bad. Your child is excited. Your child wants to learn in this way. You know, how often do we look at the learning styles and the teaching styles for children, for Black children? How do my Black boys learn at this nursery? They don't learn by sitting around a table for an hour. That's dead. We're going out in the garden, or we're going to the reservoir, or we're talking about what happened on the weekend, and I want you to get up and reenact that. And that often happens. The boys will be like, oh my gosh, my dad had all of his gym stuff in the house and I picked it up and I was like, ugh! You know, we want them to express that. The kids at the nursery will say to me, oh, Liz, are your eyebrows drawn on? Or are they your eyebrows? Can I touch them? You know, Ofsted talk about this thing, right? It's so interesting. They said that they call it cultural capital, right? And it's a term that's been around forever, but it's a new word. It's a new buzzword, cultural capital. What does that mean? How do we make sure that our children are supported? How do we make sure that the children are supported? Listen to me. I want to know what's happening in those nurseries that are predominantly white, where the nursery staff team all have blonde hair and blue eyes. I want to know how you're culturally supporting the Black children that attend that setting. Don't ask me about cultural capital. Don't ask me about how we're supporting our Black children. I've been here. My team are doing that work. We've been doing that work. We know how we support cultural capital. And this is why I say to you, it's hard for people to believe that, you know, early childhood, I guess, is so overlooked, because anybody that has a child knows how important those formative years are. That 0 to 5 bracket is key. And I go so far as to say that 0 to 3 bracket, you know, the youngest child that I've had at the nursery has been 3 months old. Somebody has entrusted me to look after a child of 3 months old. Wow. That means more to me than any Ofsted grading. Do you know what I mean? 3 months old. Imagine you've just had a child 12 weeks ago. 12 weeks. But because of our, I guess, certain situations, you know, sometimes you got to go back to work.
And
money
God
has
knows,
to run.
exactly. And God knows, say, nobody wants to leave their child at 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, much less. But unfortunately, the way society is set, it relies on us actually having 2 incomes, when a lot of the time our families only have 1 income. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So, boy, Do you know what I mean?
right?
It's a pressure.
It is a pressure, and it's funny, right? Because I wasn't going to look at the comments, but I just saw a comment from Isra. Isra's a serious guy in this thing. Isra is the owner of the Hamd House Day Nurseries, right? An outstanding brand, right, for the community. He talked about Ofsted not being culturally competent themselves. Ofsted don't have the range to inspect our settings. And when I say our, now I'm talking about black and brown. Now I'm talking about our communities. They haven't got the range, and they haven't got the range because top down, there's nobody in that team that looks like us. And this is also not to say that all skin folk are kin folk, because I know that too. But it's also to understand that there has to be a heightened awareness about our own cultural practices, how we do what we do, and why we do what we do. And that's why I'm very conscious about the practitioners that I have in my team. I have historically had white practitioners in my team, and sometimes they don't get it. Sometimes, oh, she spoke to me too hard, or, oh, you know, they told the child off. And listen to me. Certain things, you don't know how it runs. You don't know how the team's meant to operate. Come here, like every white person is doing now, to observe and learn. Don't come here and ask no questions. Don't come here and challenge nothing. Sit and learn, watch, understand the thing. Don't come in here with your supposed understanding. You're not superior to me. You're not superior to my children and families. You're not superior to my practitioners. We run things here. And that's a conversation, again, it needs to happen. White people need to understand that in this kind of environment, you are here to challenge me. I don't work for you. If we want to look at it like that, you work for me, you know? So we have to be, as I said, bold and unapologetic in our practices, bold and unapologetic in the way in which we go about raising our children. We have to think about how class comes into it and how that delineates a lot of things. If we go into, you know, Marks and Spencer's food hall, and I'm being very, very general here, and we see little Quentin in the aisle kicking off because he hasn't had jelly babies. He's kicking off on the aisle. We know as black people, we're probably just going to like walk past and think, why, sir? What a thing. That couldn't happen in my household. Yes. You know, but, you know, there are certain parenting and cultural practices that white families, by and large, employ. And it might mean that because of the kind of class difference, there's a way of just, okay, we're just going to let them have this little moment. Okay, come on. Don't worry about it. And I'm aware that I'm generalizing. I'm aware, but I'm also saying that it's not a conversation that we should shy away from, because our way of dealing is it, get up off the floor now. Come, we're not doing this in here. Come now. And to somebody listening to that, they might think, whoa, that's a bit harsh. But listen, true, that's how we got raised, by and large. That's how things got run. You think I could say any and whatever I wanted to say to my mom? Listen, I said to you at the start of this conversation, my mom is the owner of this business. You think that excludes me from getting told about myself on the shop floor, as it were? I'm in the nursery and getting badded up. People who know and have worked for me in the early days, Ivanka is badding me up unapologetically. It is what it is. And it's not because she don't like me, it's because she loves me. She wants me to make sure that I'm excellent. And again, it's this holding ourselves to a very high standard, a standard of excellence, which again has its pros, has its cons. Excellence comes at a cost. And for me, that cost has been sometimes emotionally, sometimes mentally. You know, there's a lot of parents in this chat right now, and they will tell you, yo, we'll come nursery, 7:30. I hope Mike is in this chat. I know Sandrine's in this chat. 7:30, right, on the dot. Lizzie's there, looking like this, like, morning, hi, you know, and could be 6 o'clock. Me still there. I'm here. I'm in the setting. Because I don't sleep. But it's important that I know how my thing is run. But what that also says, it promotes excellence. It tells the people who are bringing their children here, this is not a joke for me. This is not something to do to pass the time. I'm here because I love it and I'm passionate. And again, it contextualizes the experience of black children. They need to see excellence demonstrated, you know? And as I said, it's not to hold ourselves to this superhuman standard, but it is to demonstrate that we run businesses too. We operate in this space too. you also come to a nursery that is in a beautiful, you know, listed building. It's lovely, you know, but it's a building that Ivanka owns. It's not a building that's rented. It's a building that belongs to us. Yeah. And that's very important. And I tell that story all the time. You know, I looked at how we contextualized, I guess, what happened in our experience and with my family. And I'm the eldest of, you know, there's 3 girls. And in terms of how we were kind of parented, things were not up for debate. There was no negotiation. Okay. So you see, after school, we're coming home. And I like to watch a little bit of Ricky Lake and then things there. Anybody that knows about Ricky Lake, yeah? I see the hearts going. And my dad would sometimes come in and be like, what's this foolishness? Have you got nothing to do? And I'd be like, nah, come on, man. It's Ricky Lake. It's Jerry Springer, whatever. Listen, one time when I came home, there was no TV because my dad just removed the TV from the house because he said you're spending too much time sitting down and watching rubbish, the television. And some the conversations that we have now, parenting is very much around, you know, we want to watch what our children are watching. We want to monitor what our children are absorbing, you know, what are they learning from this box. And that's something that my mom and dad were hot on from the 80s, from the 90s. And it's something we have to be conscious of. What is going into the subconscious mind of children? Your hands up, Darren. I'll let you ask the question.
And you see the new rites of passage right now for our little ones. Is them something there? Yeah? Them something there is a new rites of passage for the youth. Yeah? Right? So when we're looking at what sort of, what are they taking in? What are they watching?
What are they taking in?
What are they taking in? The youths are doing the youths are doing TikTok videos at the age of God knows what. You understand me? Yeah? And they're playing games. I hear the youths having like meltdowns when they're not allowed on this. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's almost like they have an
and talk about that emotional.
Yes,
that emotional response there to not being able to be on the tablet. Listen, this parenting thing, I know it's not easy. Of course, it's not easy, and sometimes you want to just sit down and chat to your friend and just give the tablet to your youth. Nothing wrong, but everything in moderation. Everything in moderation. Because what is the child absorbing and consuming? What Instagram lives is your child hopping into? What are they seeing? What music videos are they watching? What is the portrayal of blackness in those videos? You know, children are very, very, very technologically savvy. We are dealing with children in 2020. I can give, you know, my niece, who's not even 2 yet, she knows that this action is swipe the phone. She knows that this action causes something. She's not even 2. So, you know, by the time the children are 3, 4, they know how the thing works. And we have to be really aware of that. We've had a lot of conversation around, you know, reception age children, secondary age children, accessing, you know, material that is dangerous on the phone. Know that your under 5s know how to work the tablet. They're not just watching CBeebies. Be aware.
Exactly. And you know what? I've done it where I've had a friend's child sitting on my lap and I've just got my phone out. As soon as I got my phone out like this, they're ready to do all the selfie position because ultimately that's what they seem to be used to, getting ready for the selfie. Do you know what I mean?
Ready for the selfie. And even in terms of, you know, like, it's funny you should say that because anytime we take out the camera at the nursery, the kids are ready to drop the pose. They know how to pose. Yeah, man. It's not like back in the day when you had your school photo and you weren't sure how to like sit and smile. No. These kids are ever ready. They're ready for the camera. They know how it works. Yes. They are trained because we are contextualizing the Black child's experience. And there is something very unique in the way that Black people, we run social media. Understand? We set trends upon this and then everybody else follows. So if we're out here setting trends, our children are absorbing that too, and they're observing it. They know what it means to take a selfie. They know what it means to pose for a picture.
Hey,
it's important.
Let me tell you something. When you've got kids in the background, when the parents are doing twerking for the moms are doing twerking for swarms, yeah? Come on, guys. That's what I'm saying. When the kids them know at 3, yeah, how to push out
Yeah.
themselves and set themselves for that selfie or for that picture. Come on, man. Are we looking at really early onset adultification of the children? Do you know what I mean?
1000%.
Early onset is scary.
And I think when we're talking about, I guess, these things, you know, we call it force ripe, innit? And we look at how those things kind of infiltrate into childhood, black childhood. And listen, love abashment, right? My people know this. And the content and the context, all of that feeds into how children, black children particularly, are expressing themselves. Yeah, nothing wrong with a bit of expression, but you have to moderate the thing, because we know what is contained in that, you know, the lyrical content. And we have to be aware that children are coming into nursery and reenacting everything. Yeah, and we have to be really tuned into that, because if we're not, things can go amiss. And there is a lot of, you know, sexual exploitative language that is used in a lot of music. And I'm not blaming music, but I'm saying that we have to be aware of it, because children reenact things, and the things that we put onto children, they internalize it. So a child knows whether they're deemed cute or whether they're not deemed cute by our responses and interactions with them. Within our community, we like to label and talk about the texture of children's hair all the time. We like to talk about the shade of their skin all the time, right? And that is embedded within a very specific historical complex of colorism. People are having this conversation now. This conversation is not new. It's been happening, right? My parents are Jamaican born, okay? And Jamaica has been a big part of my heritage, history, culture forever. We have always been going to Jamaica every year since like 1990, yeah? And I remember going to Jamaica and be called, you know, browning, the brown thing, you get me? So that was like an awareness of, oh, am I brown? What does that mean? And how does that translate into social currency? What does it mean to be identified as brown? What does that mean? And when we're talking about having an understanding of these things and contextualize, how does that translate in the nursery? When we're talking about self-portraits and we're drawing pictures of ourselves, you know, we're in the preschool room with 3, what color crayon are we picking? What does it look like? How do we look? How do we identify? And what are we doing to gently change narratives and have conversations with children about how they look? In the nursery, anybody that's been here knows that there are pictures and resources everywhere, but it doesn't stop there. It's about the content of the conversation that is being had with the children whilst they are identifying who they are and what they look like and what that means. Because remember, we're the adults, so we're translating these messages all the time. Black is beautiful. You have to be unapologetic about that. Black is beautiful, and your beads in your hair are amazing. And we have a little hairdressing station set up here, and it is the role play area, but it's real life. My practitioners will braid cane row up the thing. Beads have to get put in, and it's about instilling that sense of real innate black pride.
Lovely.
Yeah, and it's a thing where I encourage my practitioners to do that. If their children, you know, they come here and the parents are like, you know what, Liz, can you just ask, you know, Kayan to fling in a cane row or to do this or or can Karina do this today? Yeah, man, that's happened, because the sense of pride that fills the child with, it is absolutely beautiful to see. And when I say it's not about just having the books and the posters and the resources, it's the cultivating of conversation around beauty standards. Yes, Darren.
We got about 24 seconds, yeah? So this is going to go dead in a second. But see and know, lock back on. We're coming back on for another half. Is that all right?
Cool, absolutely. Yeah, man.
Yeah?
Definitely.
All right then. No bless.